As I've already had some guests on the show who had a strong opinion about different approaches to farming and certifications, I've decided to highlight the topic of sustainability in this episode. Although sustainable certifications don't enjoy the glorious reputation of the biodynamic or even organic ones, I think it deserves our attention and understanding. For this reason, I invited Mr. Franz Rosner, Research Coordinator at the Federal Institute of Viticulture and Fruit Production in the Austrian Klosterneuburg. He spoke on behalf of the Sustainable Austria label, which is a national certification specializing in viticulture. He told me how sustainability is a more holistic approach, not only focusing on viticulture, and how this approach is considering, for example, CO2 emissions or energy use as well. He elaborated on why winemakers should go for both sustainable and organic certification at the same time, and how growers could use their set of numerous criteria for self development year by year. Fascinating topic and an eye opening conversation. And I can certainly recommend this episode for fellow WSET students who might write their D6 assignment about the topic of sustainability this spring. Thanks for listening and leave your feedback via Instagram or email. Enjoy! Mr. Rosner, thanks for taking the time. It's very nice to talk to you, at least online. And I can't wait to clarify some of these maybe foggy concepts of sustainability and its relation to organic and biodynamic maybe.
You're welcome.
How would you define sustainability? Because I think most consumers doesn't have a clear understanding of this term, and it's also not well defined. So how would you maybe define sustainability?
Sustainability is a holistic approach, and in general, the living generation should not live without compromising next generations. So that's very important, and we think that it's necessary not to talk about a few activities. We have to think about cradle to winery gate. This is our approach.
Mm-hmm. And why should people look for a certification then? And how can maybe a certification regulate this kind of approach, so to say, or give some kind of framework to this term?
There are some important things included, like greenhouse gas effects, about soil fertility, about material consumption, about water resources. And so it's very important for the future that we have to reduce as much as possible.
Mm. And as I think it's a very important aspect what you mentioned, that it is a holistic approach because you have three main pillars, right?
Yes, sustainability has three pillars: ecological, economic, and social pillar. So it's important to think about each pillar, how you can improve.
Do you, like you mentioned these activities, so I know that you have a set of criteria, a quite long set of criteria. How can such a detailed, manicured, so to say, criteria be applied maybe in practice, and how should we maybe imagine its usability?
We have in total approximately 360 activities, and each activity is assessed. Each activity is assessed in different ways: influence on soil, influence on material consumption, on climate change, on biodiversity, and so on. And it is assessed in each category between -10 and +10. And at the end, the winery has fulfilled a specific threshold. Then he is sustainable or not.
And do wineries also get, so to say, rated in terms of framework? So is it either sustainable or not sustainable, or do you also have kind of a grade or a rating?
I'll give you an example. On the one hand, it's a learning tool. So in doing an activity in the vineyard, you have the chance do it in different ways. Each way is assessed. So if he click on this activity, he sees the influence on climate change, material consumption, water, biodiversity, however, and then he can think about how he can improve with other activity this management.
Mhm.
And at the end of the process, we have a spider diagram. And he can see in biodiversity if it is like traffic light system in the red, in the yellow or green area, as well as in soil material consumption and so on. And to each category, to soil, biodiversity and so on, the winery gets 3 recommendations how it can improve next year.
Recommendations from whom? From you, from the organization, or?
In the computer system, because it's an online tool, automatically generated, which check what the winery has done and what could be improved in future. And at the end, additionally, in the sustainable report, the winery get also the information about which activity it do well in the meantime. So both sides, what we can improve, and on the other side, in which activities the winery works in a sustainable way.
And do they have to do this themselves, like giving all these data, so to say, on a website, probably, right? Or in a program?
It's an online tool. All this data he has to give in this online tool. And at the end, he can see the result. And as I explained, the positive and the negative effects. And then he can think if we want to, because at the beginning he's anonymously in the system, yes. But at the end, if the system says you do many things well, so you can be certified, he can change and say, yes, I want to be certified for the future. But we also inform the winery that we improve, we shift the threshold year by year, the yellow to the green area and the red to the yellow area. So we have a long way to go in a sustainable way. So if you say, yes, I want to be certified, it has to be clear for him that he improves step by step each year.
So it's basically like a revolutionary dating app where you can only, in the beginning, browse if you are applicable and then change and give a name to the system.
We have an annual meeting and inform every winery which is certified to give information. And as I explained, automatically by the system, the winery is informed and he can see on the spider diagram it is in the middle of the green, at the end, or however in the green area, or is it in the yellow or red area next? So he can decide if he improve the activity in the cellar and the winery, as a cellar and the vineyard, or he leave the certification system. And with 360 activities, all activities from vineyard planting till winery gate, all these activities are involved in the process. And that's important, not to think about a few activities. We have to think about the whole entire chain of the production.
Do you also have like a minimum score in every category? Or is it also possible that, for example, a winery is full of solar panels and the building itself is very sustainable, so to say, but they do not work sustainable at all in the vineyard, but they can still get certified? So you need a total score, or you have a minimum threshold in each and every category?
we have a minimum threshold at the end. That
Mm-hmm.
means that if it doesn't fulfill this threshold, it can't be certified.
Mm-hmm.
And so we shift this threshold year by year, and that's important. So not every winery can be certified, and that's important to know. But at the end, we have to become more and more sustainable in the whole Austrian wine production.
And in an ideal world, when you have a maximum score in every category and each and every activity is fulfilled and checked out, so to say, what could then actually happen? Or what is then the impact of this? What is the
If
aim, so to say?
the aim is that we improve in total at the end, but every year we have an award. So in each category, we have a winner, and in an annual meeting, you get this award. So
Mm-hmm.
we motivate the wineries and said, this winery is best because it is, for example, energy autark. And so if you want to be also a winner, you have to improve your uh, uh, green energy and activity in renewable energy. So therefore, we motivate all members of the certification systems.
Mm-hmm. And is it then always the case that, for example, beyond a certain score, an entity or a winery becomes carbon neutral? So do you have like a score like this, a general score?
Yes, we have a greenhouse gas calculator
Mm-hmm.
since this springtime.
Mm-hmm.
So we calculate all activities in cooperation with the Federal Austrian Environmental Agency.
Mm-hmm.
We uh, assessed and give data in this system. So we get all information about carbon footprint at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this year, we only give the information if it is in a green, yellow, and red area, and no detailed data because we have to learn what's really green, what's really yellow, to see all this data and think about how we can improve step by step and give
Mm-hmm.
information to the wineries to become more sustainable at the end. So I think it's very new and I think it's really a challenge for everybody, and it's new in the wine sector
Mm-hmm.
uh, to certify every winery in a, I think, automatically way.
But then how would you explain maybe to an end consumer the difference between organic and sustainable? If they see on the shelf a bottle of wine and they see in Austria, for example, and they see a sustainable label, um, and they see an organic certification or label, what should an end consumer or a wine lover, a conscious wine lover, know about this certification, and how should they maybe choose wisely, so to say, in terms of the environmental impact?
This is an important question because organic production is regulated by law.
Mm-hmm.
We have regulation, and this regulates the plant protection products and the fertilizers and some fining and techniques in the cellars. But that's it. It's regulated by law. Sustainability, unfortunately, is not regulated. And so organic is an important part in our sustainable system, but a small part, because we have to think about the entire production chain and in different ways, because we have to calculate and think about greenhouse gas effects. We have to think about material resources. We have to
Mm-hmm.
think about water resources and so on, and not to make it negative, but we have to take more things into account if we talk about sustainability, and also the social and economic pillar as well.
Mm-hmm. So would you then recommend that people, or rather wineries, should go for both certifications, sustainable and organic? That would be maybe the
Yes,
idea. Mhm.
yes. I think if it is sustainable, yes, everybody should know the holistic approach. Yes, and if it is organic, it's a additional information for the consumers that it is organic by law as well. So a good combination would be both levels, or I think it's also good to have only sustainable certification, because then you have to explain that you are in a holistic approach on a good way.
Because to be honest, in my mind, and I think a lot of consumers have these kind of prejudice, so to say, that if you see organic on the label, then it has rather two implications. One is a direct influence, so to say, on your health, that you are drinking, so to say, healthy wines. And it has a direct, the second one is that you have a direct impact on the soil or on the environment, because you don't use fertilizers and different chemicals in the vineyard. And I think that's a very common prejudice. Would you then, or how would you comment on it?
In 1991, the EU regulation about organic production took also into account greenhouse gas effects, resource efficiency, and so on. But up to now, it is not implemented. So it's important to make some steps in organic ways, but it's necessary to add many other activities to protect to reduce pollution and so on. But it's quite complicated to have a new law, because with 27 members in the European Union, we have to wait year by year. So I think we have to start now and think about how we can improve in a holistic way our production. That's a main thing. And that's the advantage about sustainability.
But do you think that we are also going to see a more regulated approach to sustainability, and also maybe at least on the EU level, as with organics?
More than EU level, I think worldwide we should think about what sustainability is and how we can improve and develop. And so we have some worldwide sustainable certification systems. And I think every system, I think we are really good on this way, maybe the best to take all things into account. Because as you could see on our homepage, we evaluated and assessed with international reputed researchers all our assessments. So it's based on scientific basic, and that's important to develop step by step also the next year how we can improve in a scientific way sustainability. And if we wait on a new regulation, we will wait many years, I'm afraid. So we have to start now, and every initiative is important and necessary.
You are only operating in Austria, right? So with this certification, Sustainable Austria.
Yes, but other countries now are interested to want to have this certification system. So maybe ask me in a few weeks, I can tell you more, maybe.
Okay, second part. But do they, or would they, rather than copy, so to say, these kind of activities or these kind of requirements or certificate criteria, so to say?
In general, they would take over all the assessments at the beginning, and they will adapt the social criteria maybe, because in every country you have different regulations. We have very strong regulations in Austria. I don't know in other countries which regulations additionally to the European Union laws exist. I don't know, but at the beginning they will take all these assessments.
Because I know that, for example, the Casa Clima, that's I think it's an Italian sustainable certification, but they have, I think, less than 50 activities. So it's much less detailed than Sustainable Austria. But would you say that if it's gonna be regulated, so like by the law or by a state or by a regulatory body or like EU, like on EU level, should it be really that detailed that your criteria, or is it enough that you have like 40, 50?
If you have a look on our homepage, you could see which criteria or activities influence biodiversity. Okay, you will find different other activities which influence greenhouse gas effects, climate change. And if you look on, however, water, you can see also additional activities influences more or less this sustainable criteria. So we said we have to take into account all what we mentioned sustainable criteria, which we think are important. So we have in total 9. So it's more or less more criteria activities for negative or positive effects in biodiversity than in material consumption and others. So it depends on. In total, I think it's important to have more than 50 activities in the certification system. But at the end, you may adapt it as we did if you have a dry area or where you have many rain. Yes. So because if you have a lot of rain, you have different influences on soil, on activities than in a dry growing area. So as you can see in our certification system, you have to choose the vine growing area, and then you have different assessment behind for negative and positive effects.
And who actually writes these criteria?
My colleagues and me. We are experts in wine production, but the assessment, we had many reputed researchers which are experienced. And after 5-6 years, we improved it with the Federal Environmental Agency 2 years ago. So it's important to improve every 5 to 7 years because on sustainable production, many universities are interested to become new publications, to find new ways and how you can improve at the end.
As we learn in the WSET curriculum, also because the sustainable certification has a more wider set of criteria or wider set of tools set, straight to say more chemicals. IPM, or the integrated pest management, is really then a vital component of sustainable growing practices. I would imagine that you don't apply systematic fungicides or systematic herbicides, but you rather plan better maybe, or you minimize the usage of these chemicals, right?
It's very important to make aim-orientated plant protection. For example, what you mean, yes? So how you can reduce plant protection products and use it in the best way. There are different opportunities. On the one hand, we have warning models. With weather data, we have the information about if it is a different problematic situation about oidium or the peronospora, for example, and then you have to apply or not. And not applying by calendar. Yes, every week, the same amount. Yes, doesn't make sense. Additionally, about thinking not applying all vine regions, all vine different terroirs. because some are more and some less infected by Oidium or Peronospora. That's important. Additionally, how you apply. For example, if you use a tunnel recycling measurements, you can save year by year between 25 and 40% of your plant protection product. Otherwise, you have a drift in the air and in the surrounding area. So not only the product, additional things are necessary to become sustainable.
And do you also recommend the biological control, so predators against certain pests, insecticides, which are maybe more biological based, so to say, or maybe hormonal confusion for the mating?
Yes, that's important. Hormonal confusions is very important. Insecticides are, how can I put it, very negative assessed. So in my opinion, it's not necessary. It's not prohibited, but very negative assessed. So therefore, if he is doing this, he become maybe not certified in sustainability. So in general, we have allowed every activity, every plant protection product, for example, except glyphosate. Glyphosate is prohibited as herbicide, but in doing so, we have a threshold, and with the threshold, yes, we have prohibited automatically some activities.
Yeah, because the weighting of these is probably then much higher than on other ones.
Yeah. But you have to think about a holistic approach, not about one or two activities. And at the end, you have to become more and more sustainable. But at the beginning, we could say people are interested, but then he could say, okay, if I change my management system, I become more and more sustainable. Is it more or less effort, more or less money I have to invest? And then step by step, we could see that people are interested to become more sustainable.
So what do you think it's important for the future, other than what we already talked about, so plant protection?
On European level, we are talking about greenhouse gases, about the Green Deal, the European Green Deal. We have also implemented greenhouse gas calculator. We changed our online team, have a focus on it. And behind the data, we calculate for every winery which is certified about the greenhouse gases. And at the end, you get the information. And that's important to be sensitive about greenhouse gases. And as I explained before, there are many things to do, how we can reduce. And with this information at the end, the winery is informed how he can change and how it can develop.
Your system or your application can also calculate the greenhouse gases, or is this balanced?
Yes, we try to do it, yes.
Because I would imagine also with this war between Russia and Ukraine, the energy question generally becomes more urgent, I would say, for Europe, right? An opportunity, but I wouldn't say opportunity, but maybe a pressure for you to do this or develop these tools also more efficiently, right?
Yes, I think it's very important to become more green. And if we change to renewable, to energy, yes, to green energy, if we change it, we become automatically more sustainable. And if we reduce, for example, the glass bottle weight, yes, lighter glasses, and important for me also to refill the bottles, to have a reuse of the glass bottle. It's very important. We could see in our calculation how positive effects are on sustainability is. So, but in doing this, we have to think about not in a territorial way. We have to think about the whole life cycle assessment, scope 1, 2, and 3, not in doing and using the product, also to thinking about and take into account how this product is produced, transported, and at the end recycled. So the whole way, the life cycle, to take it into account, and that's important. And we try to do it to calculate it as carbon footprint kilogram. And so we see how we can improve for the future.
It's a nice holistic idea, I would say, and would be wishful to expand it also not only for viticulture, but also most other products in the supermarket shelf, I would say. But do you see also like a tendency also maybe in your circles that it will be implemented in like more broadly maybe in the food chain or food industry?
I've been involved in the general food sector as well, yes, on international level, and I can see that these things are discussed, but I think we have to wait for a few years. So I think it's important because if you take many ideas into account, you use time, yes. But in my opinion, we don't have much time. We have to act now. This is my personal opinion. And if we don't 100% perfect, but we do, I think, good things. And we have to start now and not next year's. About the war, I think people think about renewable energy, about how they can improve, how they can become autark like this. All these things we implemented many years ago in our system.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's clarified a lot of things what you explained. Would you like to add maybe some comments, or do you also get some questions more often, maybe in your circles that you would like to address now?
Yes, I wish in general that we work together on international level to improve step by step. We are at the beginning of a necessary way to improve in a sustainability way. So therefore, I think it's important to work together, to share the workload and to think about how we can improve in the future. Because you're a young person, it's the future for you and also for this generation to ensure it.
Amen. So thank you very much, Mr. Rosner. I think that was very educational. I think, and I hope that most of the listeners are also gonna think more about these aspects and choose maybe more carefully at the wine list. Thank you very much and have a nice day, sir.
Bye.